Okay, Rob, come on up.
Everybody hear me? Well, I gotta put this lovely thing somewhere. Right there, I guess will work. Well, I hope that what I'm going to tell you of my experiences that it goes around that people that kind of been there and to help them their walk. So I'm going to jump around a little bit because I didn't bring a. I'm shooting from the cuff, so I'm going to start out as when I was a kid. Um, I was raised on a ranch all my life, pretty much. My dad was traded horses a lot. He made extra income by buying, selling, trading, and riding other horses and stuff. When we and my older brother were probably 6 or 7, he had us riding them horses, and we weren't very big. You know, I rode a 12-inch seat in a saddle at that time, and he wasn't either. He was smaller than I was, but uh, we went through life as if you got hurt, you don't make noise. Tears can run, but you don't make no noise. And I've lived on that forever. But as you go through all the stuff that even after you have kids and think back on that kind of thing, it's a little coarse. My mom always told Dad that one of these days you're going to kill them boys. She never did, but he was the kind of guy. I had a younger brother too, and we were at the barn down there and doing horse stuff. And and it was after he was probably 5 or probably 6 or 7, and Dad gave him a chance. The chance he give you was if you had got bucked off and you start hooing and hawing and bellering, well, he just say, and he told him, he said that you might as well go back to the house and play dolls with your sisters. And so that's what happened. He never had another chance. So I thought that was in later life, a little strong too, but that's just the way things were. That's how we growed up. So jumping ahead a little bit, I taught myself how to swim. We used to do a lot of stuff with horses. Me and Jim, we'd Dad had put choke ropes on them, put around the saddle horn and down on their neck. So if they got their head down, we weren't strong enough to pull them up to get them to quit bucking. So usually they bucked it off anyway. But we would take them over to this lake there in the Sandhills in Nebraska is where it was, and we'd jump them off into the water and stuff. And anyway, we taught ourselves how to swim. Me and Jim did. And then learning how to swim, then later on I was at a deal where everybody went to the lake, and that was like maybe a year later. And I walked out on this sandbar and just walking along there, and I just fell on this sandbar, and I stepped off the end of it. Well, then that's where everybody was at, and all I had to do is turn around 2 feet and walk back up on the sandbar. Well, they mugged me down and about drowned me, and they had to pump water out of me when they got me to shore. But this guy that was a huge guy, he was swinging at me, and I was trying to dodge him because he's trying to knock me out because I was just climbing him. And I'm sure glad he didn't hit me. But anyway, I after they got the water knocked out of me, then I was okay again. But anyway, on down through the years, or up through the years, I played basketball, football, all that stuff, and then after that, I was just at a regular high school career. It wasn't, anything special. But I went to driving a truck, and then I moved to Texas because I thought I was a big-time truck driver. Found out I wasn't. And started drinking a lot. You get back in from running, them guys would go to their motel, which most of them didn't have a pot to pee in, and they'd drink whiskey for hours, and you'd be out days and days, you'd be just wore out. At the place we worked, they had a big, the big pickle jars, that big, and they give you speed was in there, and you just dipped your hand in there and took as many as you needed, and out the door you went. But anyway, you'd get back to there, and that was kind of the deal. They did all in those cow haulers, big company, like 60, 70 trucks, went all over. So anyway, we'd get there, and them guys would drink whiskey, and I told Jim, he took me over there the first time, and I said, man, this ain't for me. I mean, I want to go down home and lay down, But I stayed there for a little while just to kind of fit in. So that kind of, I think, got me started. But I just drank a lot of beer. And anyway, I got involved in some other stuff, and that was kind of bad. Then I got into some more stuff. I didn't ever get into the drugs or any of that stuff. I just got a lot of fights, and win most of them, which is probably a bad thing. If I'd have lost all of them, I wouldn't have been so that bad. But I was one of them guys that was get in someplace and somebody, for some reason, look over there and he's staring at me and I'd stare at him, and then we'd, I was a pretty vicious, really vicious person. It was down to, I banged people's heads off tables. I've thrown them through windows. I've thrown them through doors. That's the kind of person I developed into. And it never stopped for quite a while. I had money on my head once, and the cops would come and follow me around, and they'd arrest me and haul me to the jail, but they said, we're just bringing you here because they want to kill you. And I said, well, they ain't going to get that done. So that went on for quite a while, and finally I moved from there and come back home up here, and I got around some people that was good, and kind of got me going in the right direction. Got involved with some church. Before that, I kind of skipped over a part. I did go to church. I didn't, when I was little, Mom took us to a church, a little church there in a little town of Whitman, Nebraska. And it was on, I don't know what they call them, Sunday school. I bet you went like 5 days or whatever it is. And all I really remember of all that is the pictures, the drawing, not really knowing who I was drawing or what it was all about. So then we went to an Episcopalian church there in Hyannis for a while, and it was kind of the same way. I could tell you probably what the church looked like from the inside. Is about it. I don't know much about what they were talking about. And then that was kind of the end of it for a lot of years for church stuff. Clear up till I started going to church there at Southern Baptist for a while. And this was after all this stuff I was just telling you. And I got to kind of feeling that nudge, a lot every time I went. I never did respond to it. But it still, I still know it. I've still felt it. I still know that now I know that why I was getting that nudge. But I still drank beer. I didn't do it as much, but I still did. And it didn't stop me from that. I still got in trouble. And I was been put in jail a bunch. From here, this jail here, back then, and Riverton and Lander. Pretty much the big, this part of it all. But kind of, the last time I was in there, I was in one in Riverton, and that's a pretty bad place to be. And anyway, I made up my mind I wasn't going to go back to jail. But, and I didn't after that time, but I was in there plenty for drinking and fighting. And so later on in years, I didn't want to be anymore. So I took a pair of scissors and started sticking myself with a pair of scissors. And my mom found out, or she wasn't hard to find out. She's seen me, and I was bleeding everywhere. They took me to Casper, to what I call the nut house. But it's not a bad place, really, if you need to be there. The part of it was that to keep my Copenhagen, but not really. I mean, they wouldn't give you the can. You could have a little baggie. But all the doors were, there was no door knocks. You went in, you didn't get back out. So when I first went down there, they put me in a little cubicle room and all the cameras and a bed. And then you did your daily stuff. You had goals, stuff like that you wrote down, and then you went in with a whole bunch of other people that were in there for something like why you were there, different reasons, but mental problems. But if you look around when I was in there, and there was a lot worse people off than I was. People that had some, it was like I was feeling sorry for myself for being there. Because the people that needed help were there. But I was around one fella he was a younger guy, younger than I was. I can't remember how old I was, and I'm not going to get into that part, but I visited with him several times. We sat in a little cafe there and drink a soda or whatever, and we just visit about different things on his mind, kind of, things on my mind. And it was his last trip. That was his last time. If he flunked out of there, then they were sending him to a bigger place, a worse place. So I talked to him about that, and he was a nice guy, kid. And but we sitting another day. We were sitting in. It's been like 3 or 4 days, probably after that. We were sitting in there, and I was sitting over at a table by myself, and there was had quite a few people in there. And this guy, he was a strong kid, and he grabbed this table, and I don't know what them tables are pretty big, but he grabbed it and just slung it, and it hit some people. And anyway, that was his last time, so they sent him away. But you had to go into these, they weren't conferences, but just a bunch of people that have problems, like I did. and you talked, and it went around the room. And you really didn't need a psychologist, because they were kind of your psychologist, because if you said something that they knew it was BS, and they'd call you on it, and it'd make you, the first time they did it to me, I was really offended about it, and it makes you a little angry, because they called you on it. It's just, so it took several sessions of all that, and seeing people. One lady was getting out, and she was just happy and stuff, and every person that came in there, she built you a little bracelet or something. She just wanted you to have that, and I had one, but it was like a week there. They're planning, she was planning to get out. Every time we were in there together with all the people, everybody was happy, and she was happy and all that. Well, when it come down to the day to go, she couldn't go. She didn't want to go, and she's scared to be out among the people. So, and I don't think that they took her that day, made her, talked her into it or nothing. But I think it was a couple days after that they did, because her husband, she was a married lady, and husband and family. I don't know if she had kids. I don't remember that, but they finally got her convinced to go somewhere. And the whole thing of being in there too, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe I wasn't in the right part, but they never brought in the Bible. It was more of what you were about than it was the Bible. And I think that wasn't a good thing. I think it would have helped some people. Just because they got a little deficiency of this or a little mannerism of that, I don't know that they got the chance. Maybe they had the chance before, I don't know. But I know they didn't offer that to me at that time. But at that time, maybe and maybe not. Maybe I would have maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe it wasn't my time. One time, the Lord had other stuff for me, but after that, kind of went with the hate. My wife and kids come down. I was there for a couple months, I suppose. I was wanting to go out, get out of there, but they wouldn't let me out. I couldn't go outside. They wouldn't. You could go out in this little area, kind of like a jail, and sit out there in the sun, but you couldn't do anything, visit. But I asked them, pretty much begged them, just let me walk out. I'd just walk around the block, and and they could follow me or whatever. But they wouldn't let me do it. They were thinking I'd run, but I don't know where I'd have ran to. But they just didn't want to have to chase me down, I guess. But anyway, when that got kind of time for me they figured I skipped a part there. I had a guy from Cody, psychologist person, and I met with him 2 or 3 times, was all, not very many times. And the third time that I talked to him, and he told me, he said that a lot of people can't get through what you're going through without medicine. And he says there is a way to do it. And what he told me was, if you take more control of your mind and what's coming in than what goes out. And I listened to that real well. But when I left, they had to write you up prescriptions. So I can't remember what it was, that real bad stuff that they had out back then. But I got that, and it was crazy bad stuff. So, but I had to be on it for a while, so I was on it. And kind of went on through life. It took quite a while to get over it. It was like you were a gilded dog, you know, you just kind of laid around. You just didn't have no ambition, do nothing. So that kind of went by, and then I got to go into church, and my wife, her father and mother were great people, and in fact, her dad, I was in jail one time, and I was sitting in there, and they'd bring you food, and I'd roll up aluminum foil, and I'd sit on the corner of the bed and shoot baskets into the sink. That's what I had to do all day. And I was doing that, and I looked up, and in the cell door right there, and he was standing there, and he says, well, how you doing? You know, just cheerful. I thought, oh man, you know, my father-in-law, and he's gonna, you know. But he didn't say, I mean, he just said anything. Well, if I can get you anything or do anything kind of thing, you know. And I thought, man, because I was afraid he was going to bill to me and tell me all these things that I should have done or shouldn't have done, or, you know. But he didn't say a word. So when I got out of all that stuff, and then he was one of the main people that kind of got me going down the right road. And he did for my kids too. They took them to Sunday school stuff, and kind of got them ahead of me even, you know, which wasn't too hard. But got them down the road and kind of got them into everything that should be. And so we just kind of went on. We were just hot and cold. You know, at least I was. Backslid a lot. You know, did things that I shouldn't have been doing, stuff. You know, and I did that all the way up to, I can't remember how many years before this thing. I was a hit and miss person. And, but before I had this, I already found the Lord. I was baptized, but I was still not there, you know, not to where I am today. But when this thing happened, well, before that, should have been dead lots of times. I've had guns pulled on me. I had knives pulled on me. I swore at them to shoot, and they never did. Well, of course they didn't, because I didn't want to be here. But you know, when you're screaming at somebody to shoot when they got it under your chin, might tell them something, tell you something. You know, you don't have much. You're about, you know, you're sick of it. You know, sick of whole. You know, you go into a bad place. It's like Satan's in you. Maybe it was. Something was in me. Because all through them years that I was doing all that stuff that I was doing was crazy. I mean, every place I went back in them days, I was at a kind of a little dance thing, and it wasn't in there in where I was living at that time. And I was walking from there back down to my truck, and that's when they had the thing on my head. But anyway, I was walking down through there, and there was I parked under a street light. I always did that when I tried to stay in the light. But I was walking down there to the truck, and I was just walking, you know, and it was about length of this parking lot, probably front to back, maybe a little further. And I walked by this pickup, and there was a whole bunch of people standing there, a whole bunch of guys, young guys, and a few older guys. But when I got down there by it, this one guy was sitting on the seat of his in the passenger side and had the door open, and says, "Hey, you want to fight?" I never said anything. Never said a word. I just kept on walking. But I walked right by there, and he had his legs in the door, and I took that door as I went by and gave her a shut and slammed it. And he squalled and bawled, and all of his friends, whatever you want to call them, were standing around there, and they kind of lined up, thinking I was. But in that black side of me, the devil, whatever you want to call it, I never was whipped. I only had one person ever knock me down. I mean, I was a bad dude in them days. I mean, I didn't care life, death, didn't matter, and I liked the taste of blood. I mean, it was, people think that's, but until you've been in that situation. So anyway, that's how bad it was. So now I'll skip to some of the better part after getting through all of that. It was a while before 2012. That's when I got this thing. I worked for a chemical company here in town. Before that, I was a safety manager for a big pipeline company. Made a lot of money. But I was tired of that. I was gone all the time. I couldn't see. J-Dub was I think he was a senior in high school, maybe a junior in high school. And I was gone all the time. Couldn't watch his football games because I was just out of town. I was locked onto jobs. Every job, they'd have to have a safety man on site. So they work seven days a week. I work 7 days a week. So I couldn't get away. So I missed a lot of that, a lot of the family stuff. But then the reason I took the job here is being home, being around family, that kind of stuff. So I took that job, and then I was there for 5 or 6 years, I think. I've only got 25% of my lung capacity right now, and it goes down by I had 35% a year ago, so it goes down. So sometimes it takes me a second to think about different things, But anyway, I worked at the chemical company, and and they got brand new trucks in, and the gauge that told it that whether it had pressure on it or not didn't work because it was a brand new truck with a faulty gauge. So I was doing some things to fix the truck. I was inside of a building, and I pulled that gauge off, wanted to replace it because I knew it wasn't working. And it said 0, but it should have said 0, but it didn't. It had more in it than that. It was a biocide. What they use the biocide for is it kills all the bugs, stuff downhole and drilling rigs. Some people in here probably know about it. But it's a deadly. If you got it in your eyeball, say, it'll eat plumb through your eyeball. One little part of it in your mouth will kill you. And I was the only one there that handled it because they did high pressure stuff, and I'm the only one that knew how to do high pressure on wells. And so I was the only one that handled that particular chemical. So anyway, when I took that off, I just blowed it up, and I had all my gear on, my hard hat, safety glasses, and a face mask is what I had on. But it still got on. I mean, I was soaked to the bone, and I knew it was bad, but I just turned around and walked out of the shop, and I was just dripping that stuff, and walked into the office there, and there was a guy in there, and I said, I got drenched with this chemical, and said, I'm gonna have to go home, get a shower. So I had to drive. It was winter time, so I had the windows rolled up, so I was breathing that crap. And I got home and hollered at my wife from the porch, and I started taking my clothes off, and went in and got a shower. Soaped up good, but it already got into my skin and stuff, and then the fumes I breathed from it. So they didn't have a shower. They didn't have a shower. You could wash there at the job. So I didn't think much of it at that time. my skin was real tingly, you know, but I didn't think much of it. I mean, I knew I didn't get it in my mouth or in my eyes or anything, so I thought I was good to go. So it took about, I was still working for a month or so, maybe 2 months. I was on a job over in Riverton, and you kind of do stuff that the salesman tells you to do. You know, the salesman sells the chemical, he tells where it goes, they do whatever with it. Well, it got to where I had treatments that I did one day, and then they were skipped for a couple days, and I'd go back and do another one. Well, I got where I was mixing that up, and the salesman was really getting ticked off at me for it. And I couldn't figure out my own brain, because I did it for so long, of how I was mixing them up. I mean, I would do wells I just did and forget the wells that I should have done, or vice versa, you know. And so they really rammed on me for doing that, which is understandable, because you get the chemicals expensive, and when they don't get wells treated that need to be treated, and you treat the ones double, well, that don't fly very good. But I never figured it out till later on that we went to I'll skip a little bit there. We went to Cody for some kind of a marathon deal, meeting, I guess it was, and I had an appointment to go see a doctor, a lung guy in Cody. So when I had to leave the meeting early to go to the lung doctor. And when I got to the lung doctor place, you have to wait and do all the paperwork and all that stuff. And when I got into the office, and they put that thing on my finger, my air capacity was 84%. So, which at that time I really didn't know that bad or good or otherwise. But it's bad. So they wouldn't let me go home unless I had oxygen at home. So that's where it started, for packing one of these things. And then, I was going to skip that other, but anyway. Things started getting worse and worse, and the doctor in Cody wasn't doing things that he should have done, and that I felt. So I went to a doctor at Con in Billings, which is a really good doctor, but he's retiring in January. But between all that time, I've been life flighted once. I've been had triple whatever on your lungs. It's 100% fatality. And in fact, there was a guy. Well, when I went in there, I'll back up a bit. When I went in there, the day or two before I went in there, we were up at G.W. and Shies, and I passed out a lot. You know, you just fall over. And then, of course, I woke up. But usually I woke up and Monica was screaming at me, and I kept telling her, quit screaming at me. But you're sensitive to that. But anyway, Nate, and I think they'd left, or I was riding home with Nate or something, and he lived up there on Park Street. J-Dub did, if you go straight up from the high school up there, he lived up there. And when we got in the car, it was like a tunnel, just a tunnel. It wasn't, and it was really strange, and boy, I didn't feel good. And we got home, and I barely made it to the couch, and down, and they were talking between Nate and Shannon and Monica about whether I was going to go to town or not, to the one in here. And I said, no, I'm not going to go in there. Happened to be the next day, I had a doctor's appointment with Dr. Kahn. So we headed to Billings, and of the many trips that we've made up there. But I couldn't walk. I mean, I was just done for at that time. So they took me in a wheelchair, and they did that where they put that liquid in your vein, you know, and then you feel like you peed your pants or whatever, you know, that one. And that was always a thrill. I've had several of them. But anyhow, they didn't have me in that machine just to, you know, not normal time. And they rolled me out and said, you need to sit up, but stay there, you know. And she did her calling and stuff. And that's when they seen that triple embolism thing. I didn't know what was going on, you know, and then they took me to, everybody was flitting around there and running around and grabbing this and grabbing that, and I got on a gurney and they weeding up the alley there and put me in this little bitty room, and the gurney was about this much too short. My feet were hanging off the other end of it, and I was in this room and they kept going around, you know, they were just people everywhere and banging into my feet, and I'd pull my feet back, and people were like they were mad at everybody in there. And I still didn't know what was going on. And all I remember is how come I wasn't on aspirin or something. That's kind of what I remember. And I don't think I was. I don't even know. But then they took me from there up to upstairs, or I think it was upstairs. I don't know where I went. But put me in a room, and then I found out. I might have found out a little ahead of that. Maybe I found out on the trip up there. Excuse me. But what was going on? So when they got me in the room, and there was still more of that running around, people running back and forth, and I was in a corner room, and which was, well, I'll explain it. I was in that corner room, and this nurse come in and wanted to give me some painkiller, but I wasn't in any pain. I should have been in horrific pain. You're supposed to be, I guess. And I wasn't in any pain. Not any more than I am right now. And she brought in wanted to give me morphine. Because I asked, because I started asking it a few times after a few times of having that stuff done to you. You start asking what they're doing and what they're going to stick you with or whatever. Anyway, it was morphine. I asked her, she said, well, it's morphine. I said, well, I don't want morphine. I don't need morphine. I'm fine. I don't need it. So she says, you must be one tough cowboy. And I said, well, I'm a cowboy. I don't know how tough I am, but that part. Anyway, the reason the corner room I was just saying about, the door was right there. Well, my bed was just like from under that chair, from the door. So when they opened the door and she went out, the door didn't shut all the way. She was out there talking to a doctor, and they were conversing back and forth of why I wasn't in any pain. And then they left. Went down the hall, because I never did, hear what their decisions or what was made up of that stuff. But Monica and Shannon come in the room, and they had brought me a hamburger and fries. So I was sitting there on the bed and I'm watching the John Wayne movie. The TV was just right there. A lot of times it was a little further off, or you look up or whatever, but it was right at the foot of my bed, just a little higher. And I was watching that movie, and I was eating that thing, and the next thing I know, I was doing the dead chicken. My leg was up flopping, and I was, and all that. And the screen on the TV, I'm not going to surprise anybody here, but it was green. It's like some people, if you hear of people that went to wherever and they seen all these things, all I seen, I got rooked. All I seen was a green screen. But when I woke up, I had ketchup, on them gowns and everything. I had ketchup and French fries, and it was, I looked down and go, what the heck? Things just go like that, you know. It just, so anyway, they messed around and another thing that happened, that we know when all that stuff was going on, they had you hooked to all these monitors. And, well, that was going on. I figured they'd be flying in there. Nobody. I don't know why. If the monitors didn't read, I don't know. But then through the next few days, I was fine. I couldn't do anything without being in view of somebody, you know, even in the shower. That lady probably got, but nurse. But I got out of there that time. Then it was, the next thing was, had a heart attack. I just stayed here in town. They kind of got it under control, and they give me this and give me that. And it seemed like it was always the spring of the year, about the time that they had the ropings here in town that I always wanted to go to. And there's 2 years in a row I could go to them ropings because of something. You know, either heart attacks or something. But there was another thing, and I was going to bring up that, you know, why I was saying that I should have been dead several times. And one of them was, I was up kind of where Frank's place is up there in Rock Creek, but you go straight across up to Vass's old place, up that road and around, and the road ends up there, or used to, maybe it don't anymore. And it's, what we called it then was the Bayard cabin. I don't know if it's what it's called now, but me and my nephew were up there hunting, and I got my elk, and we hunted a few days, and Justin didn't get his elk. So we were coming out, and I was bringing the horses. I was riding a gray and white horse. I called him Moon, and I was leading the other horses, and I had them two back horses tailed together, but I didn't have anything tailed to my horse. I just had him in a halter. And anyway, we going along. There was a nice day, you know, a winter day, but nice day, and we going up this trail, you know, right along the other side of the creek. The creek was down there, the old creek, I guess, because it was just rocks and stuff now when I went through. And I was going along there, and I was just looking at everything the good Lord made, and just looking, you know, and my horse stopped right there in one of them coulee things, that big washout where some water had been in there and washed it out. And I didn't even look down in there. I mean, I just looked down, you know, out in there and looked around and stuff. And I was almost to the rise, you know, but I was right there on the edge of the cut. And for some reason, this horse just turned out into space, and off that thing we went, 25 feet down into a boulder patch, upside down. And I couldn't get off because we were right there on the edge, and as soon as he went to go, he just leaned over like that and pinned my leg against the bluff there, the cliff, and I couldn't get off. And I'll tell you here and now, I was squealing like a little girl. I thought I knew I was going to die, because it was a long ways down there, and we were going to be upside down. Well, how it worked out was, yes, my horse was upside down when he hit, and he was in big boulder patch, and his legs, all four legs were sticking up like that, and his head was headed back up this way, so he went like this and slid upside down. And I was trying to get off of him up there, you know, and it seemed like that it was like a long ways from the bluff way where we were at, but it really wasn't. I mean, it was far enough for him to kind of jump and then turn upside down. Well, I don't know, it broke my femur, but I crawled out from underneath something, and I crawled around to the edge of the bluff, and it was laying there. It had to be that Justin stopped at a gate that's just straight across from that draw. And he's seen it all happen. And he was scooting it over there, running. Time I got crawled around there to the edge over there, and I was laying there, and here he is running over there to me, and it was kind of surprised me that somebody was there. You know, I didn't even see him when I was looking about and stuff, but then he was all flustered, and because he'd walk around the corner of the bank, and and he was talking to me and stuff. He says, "Well, how am I going to get my?" They were talking about my horse because he was still upside down. And I said, "Well, just give him a minute and kind of see if he'll flounder around and get up out there." Well, he did flounder around, I guess. I couldn't see him, but he said then he was headed up the draw. And he's bung all them big old boulders. And Justin came out and said, "Well, how am I going to get him out of there? How can he?" I said, "Well, just grab a hold of his head and turn him around." And he slambered over them things. He didn't break a leg. It messed him up. But it didn't break a leg or bones or bellies or nothing. It didn't kill him. So then we had to figure out how I was going to get out of there. So Justin pretty much carried me from there to the truck, which was, it seemed like it was freaking 5 miles, but get across there. But it wasn't that far. Probably football field and a half, probably, something like that. Got me to the truck, and then we had this plan. I was just gonna, because it was my right leg, and he got me in the truck. So, and he opened the gate, and he helped me put it in gear, and then he just so I just used the left foot to run the gas and whatever, and then I'd use it, push my clutch in, put his clutch in. And so I had to drive it back around to we were parked on the top of the hill behind all that stuff. And Justin got hooked on and loaded all the horses, and he had trouble loading that horse. The horse couldn't see very well. Pretty much blinded the horse, but we got him loaded, and we come to town, and it was a long ride to town. But got in there, and they found out what was ailing me, and so I got through that. Another time was I wrecked a pickup on black ice, and it flipped over, went off the bar to the bar pit, and it hit upside down clear on the other side of a fence. And they said it throwed me out. Whether it did or not, I don't know, because I don't remember. But the cab was smashed down on top. The steering wheel was bent over. The seat was popped up like that. It was sitting over there by Ray's turnoff. They come and got it. And everybody went by there seeing it, and they knew it was my truck. Mashed, and it looked like nobody could have survived out of it. And weird things happen. When that all took place, everybody says, "Well, things go slow-mo," and I thought, man, you're nuts. That thing went as fast as lightning, Fast forward. First thing I was hanging on that steering wheel, and the next thing I don't know what happened. And I had a pretty new pair of Wranglers on, and right on the cheek of my butt was just one slice down. Wranglers usually go choot-choot. This went, and never touched me. But I was cut up pretty much everywhere else, but my face and back and everywhere. And anyway, the ambulance, I crawled back to the highway, to the edge of the highway. And guess who found me? My own mother. And I was cut up and blood everywhere. She was just hysterical. But the ambulance showed up out there, and they about did the same thing I did on the same bridge. And the highway patrolman come around, and he come down it sideways. So they figured out what caused it all. But I went to town and got sewed up and different things, and had a big old gash that separated the skull from the whatever it is. That was another one. So the emblem, and that's 3 of them. There's a couple others. We got to think of what they were. But anyway, 3's enough. But through all this stuff, you know, I've had heart attacks. I've been flight for life to Casper. Had heart work done down there. I've had all this stuff. So my whole thing of coming in here to telling people about my story is that it don't make no difference what you've been through. None. What makes the difference is what you do afterwards. You know, I was a type of person that then and now, then I was an argumentative butthole, I guess is the best way to put it. You know, if anybody wanted to drop the hat and fight, I was game. You know, and I was just it wasn't a good thing. In fact, it was miserable. You know, and then I guess my deal is for a lot of guys like you guys here. You know, I don't know what everybody's story is. You know, but you just got to keep walking. You know, just keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop and feel sorry for yourself. You know, I did that just about that much because I was raised the way I told you I was raised. So we just didn't have no. My brother died about a little over a year ago. Anyway, I'll tell you another little story, just a short story because people get whatever. My aunt passed away and I was down in Nebraska. Went to Nebraska and see, you know, to her funeral, and there were some people down there I hadn't seen for a long, long time. Some guys I growed up with, and one of them was a guy that when we were little, he was probably involved with us more than anybody else, you know, because we were 30 miles in the middle of nowhere, and and he was kind of the closest neighbor, and he was the same age Jim was. But, and we went to a country school. We even rode our horses to school, you know, picking them on a picket, you know. I'm gonna be 65 years old, so I'll tell you how long that was. I was back in the era where they drove workhorses for putting hay up, you know, no machine, you know, the machinery, but it was all mainly wood stuff. But anyway, it was like I was saying earlier, how we did things, you know, of Dad had put them, and our only thing we had to be is we had to be home before dark. But we'd go all over them horses and colts, and they'd buck us off, and we'd get back on, or I'd go catch one and bring it back to Jim. That way, you know, that's the way it did all the time. But anyway, I went to that funeral, and I found out that one of the guys I wanted to see was at the fairgrounds. No, they had some kind of thing down there. So I drove down there, and walked in there, and and he was back kind of in the back corner over there. Walked in there, and then he stands up, and he's a really nice guy, but he's a loud person. And he stood up and hollered my name, and everybody just spun their head around, you know. And there were several people I knew in there, but a lot of them I didn't know. I hadn't been back there for years. So him, and he had a couple little boys, and the boys were, you know, they 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, I don't know, maybe even 10, I can't remember. They weren't old anyway. And they come over to me, and he says, and this really hit my heart pretty hard. He says, do you know that you and your brother are legends? I go, wow, really? I thought, you know, legends to what? I didn't know, but good or bad. But he said, yeah, he said, you guys are legends. So I told Jim that before he passed away, and that he was a legend. So, yeah, it was quite a you know, for a little kid that you've never known and you're seen in your whole life. And his dad just, you know, didn't say anything. He just kind of grinned when he said that we were legends. But yeah, it's I just hope, and anybody that's hearing it or on tape or however it's being broadcasted, that no matter what you're going through or what you've been through, or you know, I can't do the stuff I used to do at all. You know, I try to rope a little bit, but I've got to have help, even putting my saddle on and stuff like that. I mean, a year ago I wasn't exactly tangled and married to that thing quite as bad, but I am pretty much all the time now. And but I don't let it, you know, slow me down. I just got to keep going. You know, if I was to lay around on the couch and eat potato chips or something, I probably wouldn't be around long. So I've got a great family, and you know, Nate Myers is one heck of a, made me cry, but anyway, he's quite a son-in-law. He's done a lot of stuff for me. He kind of knows what's going on. My daughter Shan, she's just getting back from Denver tonight or tomorrow from her stuff. She's had a rough go at it, and we about lost her once, but she's doing real well now, thank the Lord. And that's something I would, you know, just like what happened to me, you know, I could say blame the Lord, but that ain't it. That ain't it at all. So he's the one picks up the pieces, puts them all back together. And it don't matter what it is. You know, it don't matter. Because I was as bad as there was, other than killing somebody, and I might have done that. I don't know. And if I'd had him a long time ago, or if I'd have got my head out of my, you know what, and how much better my life would have been to this point, instead of vice versa. So I just can't say it enough that do not try it by yourself. If you got a problem, you deal with it with him. And it makes it, you'll find out it makes it a lot easier. I'll tell you another thing that happened basically is when all this thing happened, I lost my job. Basically, they fired me. They just turned me loose. Well, I was getting, you know, I had $1,400 house payments. I was getting $400 a month is what they give me. And I went to the point of, I mean, just that close of losing my whole place. And that didn't only have to do with the Lord, it had to do with everybody. Because the community had a deal for me and put money together, and that saved my place. Everybody, people I didn't even know. You know, it's just this community is, you can't beat it. I mean, every time they have something for somebody, it's I don't know how. The only way that I know the money is the money, but it's just life saving. But it's all through the Lord. You know, that's the only way it can be. So I won't bore you guys no more. That's pretty much all I got to say.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. This community is amazing when it comes to helping people, and you do live in a great place. And God has certainly blessed us here. And just pray for Rob. His health issues are not getting better necessarily, so pray for him as he continues to walk in the Lord these days from where he was. And I hope if you'd like to talk to him for a moment afterwards, you certainly can. And we thank you for being here tonight, and we'll see you on Sunday. Okay? Thank you.